He was once the most powerful man in Serbia, and then he vanished, without a trace. A former president kidnapped in broad daylight, no ransom, no witnesses, just silence. This is the chilling story of Ivan Stambolić, and the brutal twist that revealed everything. Ivan Stambolić was no ordinary politician. As president of Serbia in the 1980s, he mentored a rising star named Slobodan Milošević, but politics is a dangerous game, and betrayal cuts deep. By the 90s, Milošević had seized control and Stambolić was pushed out, quietly. He disappeared from the spotlight, but not from Milošević's shadow. August 25, 2000. Stambolić goes for his usual morning jog in Top Cheater Park, Belgrade. He never returns. His wife reports him missing, but there are no answers. For months, speculation runs wild. Did he flee? Was it political revenge? Even international media starts asking questions. But in Serbia, a deafening silence. 1 year later, everything cracks wide open. A secret police unit, loyal to Milošević, is caught in another assassination plot. And under pressure, one of them confesses. Stambolić was kidnapped, driven to a forest in Fruška Gora, and shot in the back of the head, his body buried in a shallow grave. Why? Because Milošević feared he'd run against him in upcoming elections. He killed his mentor to silence the past. Justice came slowly. In 2005, several men were convicted. But Milošević? He died in The Hague before facing trial for Stambolić's murder. A man erased by his own protege, all in the name of power. What do you think? Was this justice or just history repeating itself? She went shopping with a friend and never came home. For 9 months, her family clung to hope until a hiker found something in the woods. This is the heartbreaking and horrifying case of Leanne Tiernan and the monster hiding in plain sight. 15-year-old Leanne Tiernan was walking home from a Christmas shopping trip with her best friend in Leeds. She took a shortcut through a wooded path, just minutes from her house. But somewhere along that path, she vanished. Police launched a massive search. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers, nothing. It was like she had vanished into thin air. 9 months later, in August 2001, a man walking his dog in Lindley Woods stumbled on a black plastic bag buried beneath logs. Inside was the mummified body of Leanne Tiernan. She had been strangled with a scarf, her body bound with zip ties, and her head covered with a plastic bag. It was clear this was no random act. This was planned. DNA from the scene led investigators to John Taylor, a parcel delivery worker and dog breeder who lived just a few miles from Leanne. He was known to locals as quiet, friendly even. But his home told a darker story. Zip ties identical to the ones used on Leanne, the same type of plastic bags, and chillingly, a freezer large enough to hide a body. He had kept Leanne's remains frozen for months before burying her in the woods. Why? He later confessed, "It excited me." Taylor was sentenced to 2 life terms, but the pain he caused? Unmeasurable. Leanne Tiernan was just a child, her life stolen by a man hiding behind normalcy. She was only 19, full of life, and had just moved into a new apartment. But one night, she vanished without a sound. The search for Yara Perez Grossl would uncover a heartbreaking betrayal and a horrifying twist no one saw coming. It was September 2004 in Tucson, Arizona. Yara, a college student, had just moved out on her own, but one day she stopped answering her phone. She missed work, missed class. Her worried family filed a report. Her apartment was locked, her car untouched, and her beloved cat left behind. It was clear something terrible had happened. For weeks, detectives had no leads, no witnesses, no evidence of a break-in. Just a young woman gone, completely. Then, a new tip came in from someone close to Yara. A neighbor who also happened to be a registered sex offender, David Santiago Encinas. He said he had seen Yara, but his story kept changing. Encinas was arrested on unrelated charges, but under interrogation, he cracked. He confessed he had lured Yara to his apartment under false pretenses, and then he killed her. Her body was buried in a remote desert grave, left to decay under the Arizona sun. The reason? He never gave one. Just a monster hiding in plain sight. Encinas was sentenced to life in prison without parole, but no sentence could ever undo what Yara's family lost. A daughter, a sister, a future. How many more predators walk among us, unnoticed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and share Yara's story so she's never forgotten. He was just 14 years old, bright, full of hope, and trusted the people around him. But one day, Lucas Vargas Terra disappeared, and what happened next would shake Brazil's faith to its core. This is the heartbreaking case of Lucas Vargas Terra and the horrific truth hidden behind the altar. March 21st, 2001, Lucas leaves for church in Salvador, Bahia, but never comes home. At first, police thought he ran away, but his family insisted Lucas was happy. The last person to see him? A church elder who claimed Lucas left after a Bible meeting. Days passed, then weeks. Still no sign of Lucas, until a shocking discovery changed everything. Police found burned human remains inside an abandoned house. DNA confirmed the horror. It was Lucas. He had been drugged, tied up, sexually assaulted, and burned alive. The crime was so brutal, investigators struggled to identify him at first. But what shocked the nation even more was who was behind it. Two leaders of the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God, Silvio Roberto Galiza and pastors Joel and Adriano, were accused of the crime. Galiza, already in prison for another assault, confessed that the pastors ordered Lucas's murder to silence him after he witnessed abuse inside the church. Galiza was convicted, but the pastors were acquitted, sparking outrage across Brazil. Many believe the justice system failed Lucas and protected the powerful. Over 20 years later, Lucas's mother is still fighting to have the case reopened. She believes justice was never served and that the truth is still buried. How many more children need to suffer before someone listens? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and keep Lucas's name alive. She was just 14, a shy girl from a working-class neighborhood in Kent. One afternoon, she left her home and vanished, without a trace. At first, the world barely noticed, but when her body was found months later, dumped near an industrial site, people started asking, why didn't anyone pay attention sooner? And who was the predator hiding in plain sight, ready to strike again? This is the disturbing case of Hannah Williams, and the killer who slipped through the cracks again and again. Hannah Williams was born in 1987 in Dartford, Kent. She was quiet, a little shy, but always smiling. To those who knew her, she was kind-hearted, just a regular 14-year-old girl trying to find her place in the world. She lived with her mom, Bernadette, and attended Dartford Grammar School for Girls. Life wasn't always easy. Her parents had split up, and like many teens her age, she felt caught between childhood and independence. Hannah had recently started experimenting with online chats, places where lonely kids could pretend to be grown-ups. She didn't always tell her mom where she was going, and like many girls her age, she craved trust, friendship, and someone to listen. But what she didn't know was that someone was watching her. And that man wasn't looking for friendship. He was hunting. It was April 1st, 2001, a Sunday. Hannah told her mother she was heading out to the shops, just like she'd done many times before. She took just a small amount of money, wore casual clothes, and said she wouldn't be long. But she never came back. Hours passed. Then a day. Her mother, frantic, called the police. But from the very beginning, something felt off. Officers initially treated it as a runaway case. They believed Hannah had left voluntarily, possibly to meet someone she knew. There were no immediate Amber Alerts, no major press coverage. To the media and police, Hannah wasn't a priority. She didn't come from a wealthy family. She wasn't from a high-profile school. And in 2001, that still mattered more than people were willing to admit. What no one knew at the time was that Hannah hadn't run away. She had already crossed paths with a man whose name would soon be linked to multiple disappearances. While Hannah's mother begged for help, the media barely flinched. There were no televised appeals, no urgent police pressers. Compare that to other missing teens, blonde, middle-class, high-achieving, whose cases drew instant national attention. Hannah's background was different. She came from a working-class home. She had struggled in school. And because of that, her disappearance was quietly dismissed. The press barely mentioned her name. Police assumed she'd return. But her mother knew something was horribly wrong. Bernadette refused to give up. She posted flyers across Kent, knocked on doors, and begged the public to help. But days turned into weeks. And still, Nothing. Behind the scenes, investigators did finally begin pulling together a list of potential suspects, and somewhere on that list was a man with a disturbing past who'd already fooled police before. His name? Robert Howard. More than a year after Hannah vanished, on July 15, 2002, a grim discovery was made. At a disused cement work site in Northfleet, just 10 miles from her home, a worker noticed something strange buried near the grounds. It was a shallow grave. Inside were the decomposed remains of a young girl. She was naked, bound, and partially hidden beneath rubble. Forensic testing confirmed what her mother had feared since day one. It was Hannah. She had been murdered. And worse, it wasn't a sudden act of violence. She had been held captive before she died. But the details were so disturbing, so brutal, that even hardened investigators were shaken. This wasn't random. This wasn't spontaneous. It was calculated. It was controlled. And it was the work of someone who had done it before. Now, the investigation wasn't about finding a missing girl. It was about tracking down a killer who had already slipped through the justice system far too many times. In 2003, Robert Howard stood trial for the murder of Hannah Williams. The evidence was deeply disturbing. His past crimes, his movements, and the manipulative way he had gained Hannah's trust. But the jury never heard most of it. Visual gavel slams, courtroom doors closing. Under UK law at the time, Howard's criminal history, including rape, child sexual abuse, and his connection to other missing girls, wasn't admissible in court. To the jury, he looked like just another man, not a monster. With no eyewitnesses and no physical evidence directly linking him to the burial site, the case fell apart. Howard was found not guilty. He left the courtroom a free man. Hannah's mother, Bernadette, stood outside that courtroom shattered. She had lost her daughter. And now, the system had let her killer go. Worse still, she knew he'd do it again. And she was right. Just a year later, Robert Howard was finally convicted, but not for Hannah. It was for the rape and murder of Arlene Arkinson, the girl he had killed years before. Only then did the public start to understand just how many chances authorities had to stop him, and how many girls could have been saved. After Robert Howard was finally jailed for life for another girl's murder, the public began asking hard questions. Why wasn't he stopped sooner? How many warning signs were ignored? The cases of Hannah Williams, Arlene Arkinson, and others exposed gaping holes in the justice system. Laws at the time protected a defendant's past from being revealed in court, even if that past was drenched in blood. As the outrage grew, lawmakers began pushing for change. Eventually, legal reforms were introduced in the UK that allowed judges to admit prior sexual offenses in trials involving serious crimes. It came too late for Hannah, but it could help protect others. Her mother never stopped fighting. She didn't just want justice for her daughter. She wanted to make sure no other child slipped through the cracks like Hannah did. Hannah Williams wasn't just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a teenager trying to find her way in the world. And because the system failed her, she never got that chance. Robert Howard is now dead. He died in prison in 2015. But for Hannah's family and so many others, justice delayed was justice denied. This case wasn't just about one girl. It was about how society decides whose lives are worth fighting for and whose aren't. Do you think this case would have been treated differently today? Should prior crimes always be allowed into trials like these? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And remember, every name, every face matters.